Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining. This is the Oracle Autonomous Database Learning Lounge. I am Marcos Arancibia, part of the product management team for Autonomous Database. And today we're going to have a very, very cool session. We're going to be talking about developers nirvana, right? So how to use JSON and also relational database, right? So how to interface with those two things at the same time, right? And that's the JSON relational duality capability that we introduced in the Oracle Database 23 AI. So Julian Donchev is going to be talking about that, giving us an overview of it, talking about these new flex columns, and then talking about some functions, special functions and calculations. Also mentioning the JSON collection views, MongoDB API, right, capabilities, and he's going to be doing a live demo for us, right? So throughout this session, we're going to have an open Q&A. So if you have any question, please make sure to type it in the Q&A section of Zoom, okay? And we're going to share with you links that's going to be through the chat, right? So if you look into the chat in Zoom, we're going to be actually sharing links with you, okay? If you need to come back to this session, look at the recording of this session or other sessions and look at the slides and things like that, make sure to go to the site that is indicated there, okay? And speaking of links, here are some of the links there. So these are the links that, you know, to our Get Starting page, to join us in social media, and also to ask your question, right? So we have both Stack Overflow, but also we have an Oracle Developers Slack. Now, the link is a little longer, but hopefully you guys can see it in the chat, right? So this link actually makes sure that you can log in with any email. Okay, the previous link, it was not working well. All right, great. So next week we have a very special session on security. We're going to be talking about SQL Firewall, and Michelle Malsher is going to be doing that session with us. That's on Tuesday at 9 a.m. US Pacific time, and I'll be basically waiting for you guys to join us then as well. Okay, excellent. And thank you again. Take it away. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Marcus, for the introduction. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. My name is Julian Donchev. I'm here with Herman Baer, and we're going to cover the new features of JSON duality from both DBA and developer point of view. And before we start, I looked at the poll and I noticed that 9% of the audience is expert in the field. So please, apologies if something goes into too simple explanations and some basic concepts that we need to cover. But since about half of the audience only have just read about duality and they know the basics, I might have to do some and explain some basic concepts. Let us start. First, one slide, which should basically show you during last calendar year, 2024, how the popularity of the most commonly used databases in the world went up and down based on dbengines.com. And as you can see, the highest popularity among the popular databases in the world, there are more than 400 databases, but the ones like Oracle and Snowflake and HANA and MongoDB and SQL Server, you can see that Oracle by far is the leader of the pack, while MongoDB, a competitor from JSON point of view, lost some ground in their popularity. That's just for your information. Also, important to note that according to CNBC and probably according to Oracle, 500 Fortune 500 companies, all of them use Oracle database. So the Oracle database is everywhere. And we did an interesting query using ChatGPT, asking ChatGPT, is Oracle JSON Relational Duality important for both DBAs and developers? And of course, you can see the answer. I'm not going to read it. The answer that we got is because duality bridges the gap between relational and JSON-based data models. And here is one slide, quickly just to see what is important for DBAs. It's the simplified data management, the performance tuning, it's the security, and reduce storage redundancy. While for developers, the most important takeaways and use cases for relational duality is flexibility in development, the simplified data model, the powerful querying, and the streamlined collaboration. All right, so here's the agenda. Let's start. We'll cover first what is new in 23.6 and 23.7 for JSON. As you know, 23 Oracle Database 23 AI, this is the marketing name for the database. The latest release update is 23.7, and the live demos that I'm going to show you will be on a 23.7 database, and of course, it will be autonomous JSON database. Since 23.6 came also a few months ago, we'll cover both 23.6 and 23.7 in one go. We'll do a live demo with the Mongo-to-Duality Migrator. It's JSON-to-Duality Migrator, actually the complete name. We'll cover flex columns. We'll explain what is an outlier and what is frequency, minimum frequency for fields. Again, with the live demo, we'll cover JSON collections and the Mongo API again with the live demo, and we'll wrap up. Please feel free anytime to ask questions. I'm not sure if you can interrupt me and ask question live, but that's also fine. But probably the other option you can do is either pose the question in the chat, and either I or some of my colleagues will be answering the question while we're presenting. Let's start with what is new with 23.6 and 23.7 for JSON. And probably looking at the whole database, which we call converged database, we all know that we not only cover almost every possible data type. Even in the Oracle database, there is a data type called the any data type, and the JSON data type is something that was created as native data type with Oracle 21c, actually 20c, which was merged into 21c. Before that, in the Oracle database, you were able to store JSON documents using either varchar2, binary large objects, or character large objects. And that was possible since the very first release of 12c. So we already have more than 10 years support for JSON in the Oracle database. And I won't go through all the bullet points on the slide, but it is important to note probably the ones that we have in red, some milestones, which arguably probably the most important ones in the development of JSON within the Oracle database. Probably the first one that came with 19c was the MongoDB API, where you can directly run Mongo commands against an Oracle database. We have in 21c the native JSON data type. We came with duality views, which is the main topic of this presentation with 23c. And then we created the JSON-to-Duality Migrator and JSON collection tables with 23 AI. I think the JSON-to-Duality Migrator first came with 23.5. I'll explain later what the tool is about, but the name says it all. We are migrating JSON or MongoDB automatically to Oracle, and not just to a simple Oracle database, but we are creating the relational structure based on the JSON collections, and on top of that, we create the JSON duality views, the JSON views. That's why it's called Duality Migrator, and that's why the views are called duality views, because they represent the data in two ways. In 23.6 and 23.7, probably the most important features that we came up with are JSON collection views, a lot of improvement on JSON replication. We have a limit clause for JSON, which probably will be soon coming officially to the release. JSON search index path subsettings. I'll show you how we can create such indexes. We can replicate now JSON collection tables, and we also support GoldenGate replication for duality views. First, in JSON-Relational Duality, if you can do the following with data definition language. You can use the field name _ID in sub-objects. Basically, it means that you can identify the columns that selects the rows for updates. And that is possible even if the column doesn't have a unique or primary key constraint. That is a big change. Until then, until 23.6, it was a requirement that there is a primary key or unique key constraint on the column, and you can use an identity column as an identifying column. That, of course, brings us more use cases supported by JSON relational duality views. Now, indexing. There are new types of indexes that we support. And when creating a JSON search index, you can specify the fields which you want to include or exclude from the index, which basically will do several things. You can save storage. You can only need you can only index the needed fields. But before we go into the example, because I want to show you really how this is done, let us forget for a while about the PowerPoint slides and go to SQL Developer and create a JSON collection view and try to insert some data. And we're going to work throughout the presentation with the documents in this view. Not a complex view. Let's call it coffee, because it will contain several documents about different coffee types. And the command, as you know, is create JSON collection table. This is the new syntax. And let's run it. This is 23.7, as you can see, 23.7, 25.03. This is autonomous JSON database, AJD. I think this is in Frankfurt. Let me show you. Here it is. Hopefully you can see, this is the OCI GUI. This is the database. Let me show it to you. Here it is. As you can see, we have the general information about the database. The workload type is JSON database. And I'm connected to that database. I'm going to create first the JSON collection table called coffee. JSON collection created, as you can see. All right, let us now insert some data into the collection. And the first one, I'll create a document about espresso. We have several fields. We have the ID, of course. We have the price. For every coffee, we have the price, the name of the item, the size of the coffee, the quantity, available quantity, some date. And here, this is a little bit more complex document because we have coffee items field, which give us some details about the coffee. There is Italian espresso and there is Finnish espresso. They have same amount of unit price, but they have different codes and they have different quantities, right? You can see, let's insert this one. One row inserted. And then probably we'll try to insert around 10, 11 more documents. So pretty simple ones. I'll have one about cappuccino, latte. We'll do the insert in one go. So we won't insert row after row. So cappuccino, latte, mocha, Americano, cortado, macchiato, Turkish coffee, iced coffee, dirty chai, decaf, Finlandia, and that's it. Let's insert those as well. So generate a collection documents. All right, here it is. And of course, at the end, we need to commit. All right. So let us look how this. Let us have a look at how this looks from within the database. So let's do a select star from coffee. As you can see, we have how many? We have 12 different documents, and we can also try to see how the collection would look like from Mongo Compass. From Mongo Compass, let me refresh here. And there is the coffee collection. As you can see, we have exactly the same. Espresso, the document for cappuccino, and so on. If you want to see through Mongo Compass, for those of you who are not familiar with Mongo Compass, this is, if I say this is the equivalent of SQL Developer, I might not be 100% right, but you can think of this like a client tool that connects to the database and can present graphically. You can run here selects, like find, and you can see all the collections inside the different databases. So database in MongoDB, for example, is equivalent to schema in Oracle, and collection is same like table. Here is a more easy way or more Oracle-like way to visualize the documents in the collection. We have everything in rows and columns, if you prefer to see it that way, right? So now we came at the point where we wanted to create the search index. And here I will try to create a search index on the coffee collection. Let me copy the whole command. All right, let's copy the command. So we are going to create a search index. And we're going to use the fields quantity within coffee items. And we're going to include also the price. Here's how we create it. Create search index on coffee for JSON. We give parameters, we sync on commit, search on text, and the fields that we include. Let us run the command. Takes some time, although it's a small collection. Index created. So that's how you create the index. I can show you also something similar while we're on the create index topic. You can create also a partial index for JSON. And here is how you create a partial index. I'm not going to drop the index, by the way. I'm going to keep it. If I want to create a partial index, meaning I want to index a field, but I don't want to index all documents. I want to index only the fields in the documents where the price is at most 5. Then I use the case command. You can see create index coffee price index. When the price is at most 5, then we index price. Otherwise, we do nothing. Let's run the command and see what happens. Here it is, index price, coffee price created. So I need a couple of indexes for future demos. Let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Also, hybrid vector indexes can now be built on JSON columns. And also those hybrid vector indexes, they allow us very easily to index and query the documents using a combination of both full text search and semantic vector search. You can achieve better search results. Next step, we have a limit clause, which works even in 23.6, even in 23.7, but it will come officially probably in the next, probably, we don't know yet. But the limit clause basically will let you limit the size in bytes of the JSON column. Why you would like to do that? For example, in 23 AI, we inline documents which are at most 8,000 bytes. The limit was only 4,000 bytes in 19C, but in 23 AI, now it's 8,000 bytes. So if I want to create a table where I limit the JSON to, say, 7,900 bytes, I can run a command create table, column 1 JSON limit 7,900. Logical replication. So when you create a table or when you alter a table, you can now decide to disable or enable the partial JSON updates on the supplemental logging. So you need to enable supplemental logging first. What this would help for, you can only replicate the change data. You don't need to replicate the whole JSON document, which of course will speed up the database and improve the performance. And there is a new thing also called hidden and generated fields in JSON-Relational Duality View. Think of the employee table. Employee table, you have an employee number, you have a wage column, you have a tips column. Now you can create a JSON duality view. Look at the command. You can create a JSON duality view based on the employee table where you have the wage and tips as hidden. They don't show, but you can use those in order to create a generated column. And here I have two generated columns. One is called total compensation and the other one is called high tips. And how do we generate total compensation? We add the wage and the tips together. Very simple. The one which is called high tips, it's a Boolean column. It's true if the tips are bigger than the wage. That's a new thing in 23.7. Hidden and generated fields in JSON Relational Duality View. GoldenGate replication. I won't go into details about GoldenGate replication, just it's important to notice that now we support duality views as well as from databases like MongoDB. So you can replicate to and from MongoDB to Oracle. So Oracle to Mongo, Mongo to Oracle, and you can replicate the JSON duality views. It is now supported. So that's a very important feature actually in terms of GoldenGate replication, because then you don't need the relational tables to use for the data transfer. You just replicate the JSON documents as is. And Oracle GoldenGate to MongoDB, for example, or Redis, it has the ability to replicate just the JSON documents from the JSON relational duality views. Why would you use that? You might want to migrate from MongoDB to Oracle, and that would be a very easy way to use GoldenGate. Now, in case you are not into command line and you prefer more the graphical constructs, now you can use, for example, SQL Developer extension for VS Code. Now, duality view, there is support for duality views. Moving to the next topic. Next topic is the Mongo-to-Duality, JSON-to-Duality Migrator. It's about new concepts in the Oracle database. And in case you're not very familiar with what is flex column, what is an outlier, and min frequency, I will try to cover those now with examples and in detail. Probably most of you are not even familiar with those. In case you are, please bear with me because I'll start with a simple example. I would like to show you first what is meant by when we say flex columns. I will first create a table, and then I'll create a JSON duality view on top of the table. Let us create the following table. Let us create a table called person. I have the person ID, which is a number. I have the first name, the last name, and I have the extras, which is a JSON object. Let's create the table. Table created, and then I will create a duality view on top of it. And then I'll show you with example with the data what really is flex field is about. Now let's create a duality view, a JSON duality view called person merge duality view. We select from the person table, well, all updates, insert, and deletes. We select the ID, the first name, the last name, and the extras as a flex column. And I'll show you how we can use this column. So let's create the duality view. JSON duality created. Now I will insert some data into the view directly through the view actually, and the data will be updated in the base table. Let us insert 3 rows. 3 rows, and the 3 rows will be like this. I'm going to insert first 1 row for Bida, who has a nickname Dr. Jason, 1 for Herman, who doesn't have a nickname, and 1 for Julian, who has a nickname Jul, right? Let's create the 3 rows, and then let's commit. Right. Now, let me show you how the data looks like. Now, for example, for me, let us select for ID 33. So this is for Julian. All right, so here it is. Very simple. The first name, the ID, the first name, the last name, the nickname, and the metadata. Here is once more, very similar, but for everyone. And now, imagine that I would like to update through the duality view the data. I would like to add a new field called country, which is, in my case, Finland. And I might want to do it like this. I want to update through the view the data. I want to set the country equals to Finland. In the table, if you remember, we did not have a column called country. We have first name, last name, ID. We didn't even have a nickname, you see. So everything goes to the flex field. So if I run the update, it will go to the extras in the underlying table. Let's update. 1 row updated. Let me commit. And then let's see what the data looks like. You can see in the flex column, now I have country equals Finland, although the country is not a column that exists in the relational table on which the duality view is based. So what is important to note here is that the reason why you might want a flex column, and it's a duality view flex column, but it belongs to the table, it is meant for unrecognized fields. So if you insert or update, like we did, something to the column, to the flex column, which is part of the underlying table. And if a given underlying table, like in our case, the person table, it had no column identified in the view as flex, then the fields are not automatically added. So you need to have it like the way we did it. And also it is incorrect to mention that we are having a flex column in a table. Flex column, it's a duality view column, but it's designated as flex for the view. And also, if a table is used only at one place in the view definition, then only one flex column can be used. But if you have more than one, let's say 10 different places you have in the view definition, then you can have up to 10 flex columns for the table. All right. What else? The JSON column that's designated as a flex column must be JSON object or SQL null. What means that it must be declared as JSON object. Let me go back to SQL Developer and show you how we did the definition. Here. You see extras, JSON object. Let's continue. Outliers and minimum frequency. Now, a minimum frequency is a percentage number. And in 23.6, we had only one parameter for minimum frequency. Now in 23.7, we split it into two. And we have minimum frequency for the fields and minimum frequency for the types. Now, let me explain again with an example what it means, because it's much easier. Let's go back to those rows that we inserted into the coffee collection. Now, look, for example, that for a field, for the decaf coffee, ID 11, we have a field which is called brand relax. So brand exists only in one of those 12 documents, only in one out of 12. And when it exists in a certain percentage less than the frequency, by default it is 5% in Oracle, then we consider that such a field is an outlier. We call it high entropy. Outlier is also, if we think of 5% and we go back to the same collection, outlier may be also another field. Let me see which field is also an outlier. An outlier, of course, would be details. Details exists only in two documents. In the first one, which is called espresso, and it exists only also in the last one, which is Finlandia coffee. So if you have a field that is considered to be less than the percentage for the minimum frequency, then such fields are considered outliers. And we'll see in the example of the JSON-to-Duality Migrator why such fields are needed. We create automatically a relational structure based on the collections coming, say, from MongoDB. We need to be sure that we create only the columns for the fields that are not outliers. Those ones who are outliers, or who, explained in simple words, exist only in few of the documents, they will be dumped or they'll be placed as flex columns in the relational tables. But of course, then once we create the JSON duality views, of course, they'll be part of the JSON duality views because they are part of the original collections. So this is about fields, frequency of fields. Now, what is frequency of types? Let's go back to the collection. Look at the price. Price is usually a number, 6, 10, 8. However, some developers or somebody might decide to put 8 in quotes and present it as a character. So if this was the situation that 8 is a character and not a number, this type for the Mocha collection would be considered an outlier, because all the other 11 are numbers and this one is a character. All right. If we have value 0 for the frequency, we say that no fields are considered as outliers. No fields. Now, we have a new package called DBMS JSON Duality, which contains few procedures and functions which support the automatic migration of Mongo databases or any collections. It doesn't have to be a Mongo database. It can be any document DB to Oracle. And we can do that in one go using the new tool. And let's just do that for the collection coffee. And I'll show you that this is done very easily with this one simple PL/SQL block. Let me find it. If not, I'll type it. Here it is. Yes. I don't have to type it again. Look at this one. This is everything that we need in order to convert the coffee collection or a set of collections, because a database can have hundreds of collections, but this is a simple example with just one. We need to create the physical structure of the database, and on top of the physical structure, we will create the duality views. That's what the migrator does. It migrates the collections into a relational structure based on the collections and their fields, and then it generates the schema, meaning that it will create the indexes, it will create the tables, it will create even sequences in those tables, and then it will run a script called schema SQL, where we defined it in the very beginning. We declare it as character large object. This is a long one that will run with execute immediate. So this is how we transform, we migrate a non-relational, a semi-structured database like MongoDB to Oracle. And at the end, of course, we need to import the data. And we import the data with a function called import. We have to give the tables, which will be converted into duality views. So on top of coffee, we have a duality view called coffee duality. And in the very beginning, we need to specify all the collections which are part of the migrations. So in our simple case, we have only one. But if, for example, you migrate a real database, you might have here 100 different tables separated by comma. Now, here are some parameters, like every tool has some parameters. We have the flex fields. We want to use flex fields because we might have some outliers. We want the duality views to be updatable. And we set the minimum field frequency and type frequencies to 20. Just for the sake of the example, I want to show you then how the data structure looks like. And of course, the source schema is admin. I'm connected here as admin. We run it with execute immediate, and we import the data into the coffee duality collection. Actually, we do not import the data into coffee duality because that's a view. We import the data into the underlying table, which Oracle will create as coffee root. We'll see soon. Now let's run this one and see what happens. PL/SQL procedure successfully completed. Well, you see, it took a couple of seconds. Of course, for a bigger MongoDB database, it might take you even 1 hour, and we don't have a lot of data, but this is quite fast. Now, we can say that we converted coffee or the collection of the database to Oracle, but what really happened behind the curtain? So let us investigate a little bit what happened. In order to identify what objects were created by Oracle, we'll run a select star from DBA objects objects that were created in the last minutes. We'll order by object type. Here it is. Here is what Oracle created. Oracle created for us a table called coffee root. This is the relational table. You see, the object type is table, which is based on the coffee collection. So a relational table based on the view, on the collection which we created in the beginning. Oracle creates also a duality view on top of it, which will match the collection. And we have even a sequence, we have some indexes. So let us see how this table coffee root, which is the relational table, what it looks like. Let's select star from that table. And this tells us a lot. This tells us a lot about what was done. Oracle created a table which very much looks like the collection, but it's a relational table. Oracle created a column called ID. Oracle created a date column, an item column, a size column, price column, quantity, And here is the flex column, which is called or coffee duality flex. And what do we have in this one? We have the brand relax. Why? Because that was an outlier. It existed only in one document, only in the decaf coffee document. Also, the oat price field, it existed only in one place. It existed only in the Turkish coffee document. And also the same is about coffee items. Only two appearances of this in the documents. So those were the outliers. And that's why they're dumped in the flex column. That's how the relational table looks like. And if you wonder why item is called item and price is called price and quantity is called quantity, but date is called or date and size is called or size, it's because date and size are reserved words in the Oracle database. All right, let's continue. This was the demo. Let's continue to the Oracle JSON Autonomous Database now. The JSON Autonomous Database, I showed you, this is the database we're actually using now, is a Converge Plus database. So it's a managed cloud service. It has automatic backup scaling, automatic management, and it is times cheaper and faster than MongoDB Atlas. I can run a separate presentation about price comparison, but take my word for granted, JSON database is times cheaper than Atlas. And the JSON database, it has elastic compute and storage. It has always single-digit latency in terms of reads and writes. It's 24/7, highly available, and as I mentioned, low price. Here are some benchmarks that we've done, and you can see on the x-axis we have the reads and on the y-axis we have the throughput, so operations per second. So you can see that if you do reads mostly, so if you have around 95% reads, then you can do around 45,000 operations per second with latency single digits. Of course, if you make a combination of reads and updates, reads and writes, then you have between 15 and 80,000 writes. Why is autonomous database different than autonomous JSON database, different than autonomous transaction processing? It's technically very much the same. However, the two significant differences that is the autonomous data guard is not currently supported for AJD, for the autonomous JSON database, but you have options to mimic autonomous data guard. You can use backup-based DR. That's one option. You can use refreshable clones, and that's basically a copy in a different region, not just in another AD availability domain. You can have it in a different region, so that's really can be considered as a DR solution, or you can even use GoldenGate and replicate the database to another location. Another difference is that the autonomous JSON database has a limit of 20 gigabytes of relational data. And the 20 gigabytes does not include material-wise views and indexes, so they don't count against the 20 gigabytes. It is important to note that you can subscribe also to an event called Autonomous JSON Database Non-JSON Storage Exceeded, so you will be informed when the 20 gigabyte limit is reached. You can do it through the graphical interface. Now, JSON collection and the MongoDB API. Here is an example of how you can create a collection called movies, and you can insert a simple document into the collection, and you can select the document from the collection. Each document has an _ID field, which is first unique, second it's immutable, and three it's indexed. And it's automatically generated by the database if we don't specify what it is. If you remember in my example, I did specify for each document, I specified 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until 12. And you can access the documents, APIs including Soda and the MongoDB API. For example, here where I showed you the coffee collection, and now let's refresh here, because now coffee duality appeared here. We can also see that we can use the Mongo API. I'm here connected to the Oracle database using MongoDB Compass, and you can see that now the coffee duality view looks very much like the coffee collection. If, for example, I go down, have a look at what the duality view looks like, And if I show you the coffee collection, which is the physical document, you won't probably see the difference. It's like 1-to-1. And if you are a MongoDB expert and you would like to continue using your methodologies, your tools, you want to use MongoDB, Compass, you want to use MongoSH. I'll show you soon an example with MongoSH as well. You can still continue using your tools. You might not even understand that behind this there is an Oracle database. But if you're an Oracle expert and you want to run, for example, analytics or reportings on the data, you can, of course, do that using any tools like SQL, SQL Developer and similar tools, and which is actually not possible, extremely hard in MongoDB, for example. There are three different types of JSON collections. There are collection tables. We can create a collection table movies the same way like we created the coffee collection. There are collection views, and there are the duality views. And let's, for example, try to create a collection view. Let me find the right syntax. Let us create a JSON collection view, which call it cheap coffee. And for example, we only need the coffee documents which have price at most 5. Let's try to run it. JSON collection created. All right. And let us see what we have in cheap coffee. We can, of course, run it from here. Select star from cheap coffee. And I have the free documents, espresso, Americano, and decaf. They are the cheap ones. Of course, it should appear also here in MongoDB Compass. If I refresh the databases, I'll see here I have cheap coffee. And here, again, it's exactly, of course, the same. I have the free documents, espresso, Americano, and decaf. Going back to the PowerPoint presentation, JSON collection views, important for them. They're always generated by SQL. Second, they're read-only. So the one that I collected, it's a read-only view. And as I showed you now, they're automatically visible in the API. And also I saw the collections. And of course, there are two flavors, the duality views and the non-duality collection views. Now, here is how you can, here is about JSON collection views and which commands are supported for JSON collection tables. We can alter table, we can rename, we can move a table, we can add to drop constraints, and we can even add to drop virtual columns. We can even partition them or index them. And there are several data dictionary views. The JSON collections, so DBA, user, all JSON collection tables, and JSON collection views. So here is a very good example of how you can partition a JSON collection. You partition by list, part key automatic. Let's move forward. We did go through the Mongo API. It's very easy to migrate MongoDB to Oracle. You just need to change the connection string. So as I showed you here, you probably, if you're a Mongo expert, you might not be even aware that there is an Oracle database behind this. NoSQL is required. And in 19C, we had the situation that we did not support aggregation pipelines. Now in 23 AI, we support aggregation pipelines. And everything actually can be, even if we don't support something, we can still find a way to support it because we have now the SQL, we have the SQL, $SQL syntax, which can help us basically mimic anything coming from the Mongo database. Now, let me show you with an example, probably that's the best way. Now, there is, now I'll try now MongoDB, MongoSH. All right. Now, if I run the command find with the expression find all the coffee items where sold price is less than price, $LT means little, smaller, I'll get an error message because the field name $expression is not the recognized operator. Yes, it's not a recognized operator, but I can use the $SQL command and run the following. I can run $SQL on the aggregate with select star from coffee duality, where old price is smaller than the new price. And you see, you can get the result. Here it is. We're getting it. That's one way to do it. Another one that is not supported, for example, is how to create a view with the create view in MongoSH. Let's try to do it. Create view, cheap coffee. Creating views is not supported. Maybe I have to drop first the view because I have already created it. So, oh no, it doesn't exist. Now I will use aggregate and $SQL to create the view. And let me show you how it can be done. It can be done with combination with the statement, and hopefully this works. So we are using SQL statement, create JSON collection view cheap coffee as select star from coffee duality, again, where the price is less than 5. Result, 0 means it succeeded. Another one which is not supported, it's index stats. If I try to check the index stats for coffee, I'll probably get an error message. Yes, index stat is not supported, but I can run $SQL and I can run select star from user indexes where index type is different than lop and table name equals coffee. Oops, here it is. Here are the index stats. And another one, probably the last one that I want to show you is if you want to rename a collection. So if I want to rename the collection G new to G old, I'll get an error message. But if I run a SQL statement with altered table inside $SQL, it will go through. So if I go to, so I renamed here G new to G old, it succeeded. So always there is a workaround. There is always a way how to do it. All right, we did the demo. I think basically that's it, what I wanted to show. Maybe one additional thing was probably the partitioning, but I think I did show it already with a screenshot. Let me think once more if I missed something. I think that's it basically. You can create also multi-value indexes. We went through that, but that's not directly related to the topic. So I think that's all from my side for now. We can probably use the remaining 5, 6, 7 minutes, Marcus, for Q&A.
Yes, excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, this was great, and thank you very much for such a complete selection of demos. Right, I think that's something that people are going to take home from this session is seeing so many good demos. Right, that you had very, very, very much great demos and showing step by step and in different interfaces and things like that. There was a comment of someone asking why you're not using VS Code instead of using SQL Developer Desktop.
Well, it's a question of choice, of course, yes.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, that's what I was saying,
When you do a live demo, you want to use a tool that you feel secure and you know that you won't get error messages and things will work properly. So probably that's the main reason.
Yeah, it was also probably the living proof of our commitment to backwards compatibility.
Yes, thank you, Herman.
That's true. All right, guys. So please keep the questions coming. I don't see any specific open questions right now, but keep the questions coming. This is open for you guys. I am going to just share again the links with you in chat, okay? So in chat to everyone, you're going to see the links again for Autonomous Database, the main site, and how to join us in the Slack workspace as well. Okay. And well, in the meantime, again, I see there's one question there. What are the limitations in the always free tier, Julian?
The limitations in the always free tier, in terms of JSON duality views, no, you can do basically everything with the JSON duality views, what you can do with the autonomous JSON database. Also, the JSON to duality migrator works. It's the same JSON size. Herman does something.
Yeah, I think no. I think just on a high level, the free tier in general gives you full from a database perspective, full functional equivalence to the paid version. The limits on free are obviously right. You are on a system that doesn't necessarily always give you one CPU, and it has the size limitation. That's pretty much it. But
yes,
from a functional perspective, there isn't.
Yes. It's just the hardware limit.
And even I guess the live labs as well, right? Would normally run.
No, absolutely. So live labs, and yeah, no, absolutely. So we don't have, or at least I don't recall any live lab, anything that shows functionality that would not work on a free tier. In fact, I have to confess that most of my work nowadays I'm doing on my personal private free tier, but don't tell my boss.
All right. Okay. Excellent. All right, guys. So there's someone asked something in chat. So, Drew, if you can type that question in Q&A for everyone to see, I'd appreciate it. But in the meantime, you guys want to tackle that question?
It isn't really a question. I think what Drew just said, he's re-emphasizing the point of what Julian has done, right? When we talk about JSON relational duality, the big thing about JSON relational duality is that we give you the simplicity of working with documents while preserving all the benefits of a relational storage underneath. So we are removing, for example, the issue of having to deal with data duplication in JSON collections, where, if you have a complex nested object, let's just say, in Julian's coffee example, there is some specific ingredient where the name changes or the percentage changes, and you have that in multiple coffee documents. You have to update all of them, right? With JSON relational duality views, you do it in one place and everything is updated with the thing. It's now the schema flexibility in JSON comes with the fact that you probably have some outlier attributes that are only in a very limited number of documents, or there might be attributes that are not necessarily known or existent when you start working with JSON relational duality. That is the part that goes into what Julian discussed. It's the thing that we call the flex column, which is basically the overflow for these outliers or future unknowns. And the JSON Duality Migrator, and with the parameters that Julian showed, you have full control over, how you want to treat them. When is an attribute for you a so-called quote unquote outlier, in the sense that it is not important enough to being mapped to a relational column. It's also kind of funny when you talk to people that are really down the JSON thing. Everybody talks about schema flexibility, and this is the holy grail that makes life so much easier. But reality is that, as soon as you have an application and rely on something, your schema is not so flexible anymore, meaning that you're relying on important mandatory attributes within a schema, right? So you're getting, with the schema flexibility, closer and closer to, basically what you have from a proper data model. And we are just helping you to transparently bridge that gap. It's also, when you just look at the collection side, this is where the JSON schema comes into the picture, which I think we had a session earlier on, Marcos. If not, we should do one, where you basically can ensure that your collections, that you can marry the schema flexibility of collections with at least a partial enforcement of the shape and the attributes that you require in your documents to actually guarantee exactly that, right? That your applications continue to work, and that you can guarantee some level of data quality within the framework of JSON collections.
Excellent.
Sorry for going
for sure. No, it's great. No, it's great. I just launched the polls, guys, just so that I wanted to know, how people felt up after the session today. But yeah, no, that was great, Herman. Yeah, I think that we definitely probably should do another session, right? Exactly. You know, showing some of those things as well. I think that's going to be very, very, very useful. All right, guys, go ahead.
And if no, just the last word. If any one of you starts to looking into that and wants to play with or look into how duality views can help you in your application, please feel free to reach out to Julian or myself at any point in time. You know, we are here to help you. We would like to understand your use cases and actually make you successful with this really groundbreaking functionality.
And
Excellent.
thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, guys. So final thoughts. Basically, if you go back to the Learning Lounge link that I shared just a few minutes ago, you're going to be able to see the links. You're going to be able to see the upcoming sessions, and you're going to be able to see the replays as well, right? So replays for this session is going to be there, and we're going to have the links there, the slides that are going to contain links to the materials, right? Everything is going to be there for you guys, okay? All right. So nothing else. I think, thank you very much again. Thank you, Herman, and thank you, Julian. Thank you very much for the great session. We really appreciate it. And I'll leave some music playing right now for people while we wait. If there are any other questions, guys, please feel free to type it in. Okay. And in the meantime, that's it. Thank you again.